Hello there and welcome to this week's Granny's Garden. Now you all know I love experimenting, and about 2 years ago, probably the end of summer 2020, so just under 2 years ago, I started a succulent experiment. Now I'm not a fan of overwintering plants, mainly because I don't have enough room inside the house and I don't have the correct lighting. So I wanted to create like a succulent patch that could be all year round here outside and not just during the summer months. Now, although I do live in Spain, I'm not coastal, so my winters aren't mild. I live in the centre of Spain, which has a continental climate, but I also live halfway up a mountain. So I get the extremes. I get the snow, I get the wind, I get the hail. Pretty dire in winter anyway. But there I was going to do the experiment and see how it fared. Probably the most important aspect of your succulent garden is location. There are certain elements you need to keep in mind when you are creating a succulent patch or a succulent border. First of all, it's light requirements. You only need 4 to 6 hours of light. But if you live in a hot climate, remember I've got hot summers of 100 degrees plus that last for weeks, those 4 to 6 hours need to be in the morning. As you can see, we're early morning here and it's getting a nice bit of sun, not too much, but by the afternoon when the really deadpan heat hits, it's going to be in the shade, so that's fine. So number one is light requirements, 4 to 6 hours, no more, and those 4 to 6 hours in the morning. Next, drainage. There's nothing that'll kill a succulent faster than having its feet wet, or worse still, keeping its feet wet. This is a natural mounded area, not very much, but enough. If you don't have a natural mounded area, create an artificial one. There's nothing really more boring than to see a succulent like tapestry all on one, as if it was a carpet. It gives a lot of interest to have it up on a mound with little boulders placed in between. So, drainage. Either natural mound or create one. Irrigation. As required. This is an area that doesn't receive any drip tube, it doesn't receive any overlapping water, just what Mother Nature gives us or what I decide to give it as necessary. Now, because this experiment is all about leaving the succulent garden out all year round, I needed some protection. So to the top of the shrub border, there's like a semicircular area and it protects it from the wind, which is the worst thing I get here in winter, this constant wind, freezing cold wind. So it does give it that protection. On paper, everything was working fine. What I didn't anticipate is that we were going to get, in January 2021, just a few months after planting, the worst winter on record here in Madrid. We had a blizzard, followed by an Arctic blast, and what hit the garden really bad was the Arctic blast. It lasted for 2 weeks and was so below freezing point that it took a lot of the plants out, and obviously it took the succulents out. The Haworthia and the Echeveria just went woo and dropped dead. But look what did come through, the Semper vivums. Not a bother in them. Did they look stressed? Not in the slightest. So Semper vivums is definitely the way to go, but I want to see if there are other tough succulents I can use as well. Obviously, the coldest winter on record invalidates all results, so I'm starting the experiment again. Now the idea is, apparently there's a place called Desert City, about 30 minutes from where I live. I've never been there, but I'm certainly interested and absolutely dead excited to go there. And it deals with succulents, Semper vivums and cactus. And I'm going to talk to them, see what type of succulents people are planting in this area, outside, and if they're going to survive, because inside is not an option for me. As I said, I don't want to overwinter anything. So the experiment begins again. When I get back, hopefully with lots and lots of goodies, what I'm going to do is sort this out because it's become totally overgrown. But you know, ripping out succulents and resetting them is so easy. As a matter of fact, the birds peck at this, and all it needs is to roll over, stick it in the ground where you want to, and it's as easy as that. That's all it needs to set. There's no digging, there's no rooting in, there's no staking, there's no nothing. You just stick it in the ground, and that is it. It'll grow, it'll root in where it is. Well, it's now the following day, and I did have that trip to the garden centre, the Succulent and Cactus Garden Centre, and I have to say I wasn't that impressed at all, I'm afraid. Well, the gardens were lovely. They had lovely walkways, everything was well labelled, which I do appreciate. And in the centre they had this pièce de résistance, which is a very, very big mound, almost like a hill, and full of big boulders with nooks and crannies. And in that nooks and crannies, there were plants. I said, this is what I'm looking for. It said, Europe High Mountain. I said, oh, absolutely perfect. I live on a high mountain, and Europe, obviously, perfect for my area. So, very excited, I went into the shop. And the shop had everything by continents. It had Central America, South America, it had Australia, it had Asia. I couldn't find Europe at all, and even less high mountain in Europe. So I couldn't find actually what they had out in the gardens. So in the end I went up to one of the guys and said, at least can you tell me where the Semper vivums are? I said, right over there in that corner. So I went right the full way over in the corner. I looked left, looked right, couldn't find them at all. And then beside a vending machine selling Coca-Colas, I saw a tiny little table. It must have been about 2.5 foot by 2.5 foot with some very lonely, scraggly little Semper vivums on it. Not what I was looking for at all. The rest of the shop was beautiful information, well laid out. And this was like the forgotten corner. And on top of it, even a tiny little plant, €7. I said, no way. So I got back in the car and went to Fronto, which is my own, as you well know, well-loved gardening centre. And I went to the succulent section there. For the price of one large plant in the previous place, I got 2 20 packs of varied succulent and crassulas. So I'm sticking with this. And what I'm going to do with this, got the other one here, is basically reset this and then create a little river tapestry around the top of it and reset some of the rocks I've got. So that's the idea. So the experiment is going to begin yet again with a whole variety of different crassulas and haworthias and things like that. So the experiment begins again, and we now have to cross our fingers and our toes that we don't get another humdinger of a winter. Let's get to it. Now I have brought out my gloves, and I've got my hurry with me actually today, because in there, because it goes back quite a bit, it's nice and dark and it's nice and cool. And I might meet some 8-legged friends, and I don't like them at all. So I keep them at arm's length and got the gloves on as I won't get bitten. And let's get to it. I'm going to put this little rose in the centre. It's got a tiny little well for those little roots, and I'm going to put the babies facing outwards so they can creep outwards as opposed to back into it. And what I'm going to do is, with the little babies, or the smaller Semper vivums, I'm going to sort of flow out of the pot. Now this, as you'll see before, will take over. You have to keep on lifting these and resetting them about every year and a half, but it only takes about 5 minutes to reset them. So now we have to get on to creating a little river coming out of the pot. So this centre rosette is obviously going to beef up a lot like the previous one did and fill up that hole, and then the little ones are going to just pour out. As they get bigger, you just yank them out. Cold will kill some succulents. Definitely being soggy and not having good drainage is going to kill it, but being yanked out by the hairs and plopped up anywhere, that is not going to kill it. That's the great thing about it. You can just pick them up, put them down, and when you put them down they root. So in that respect, they're very tough. These are dead cute, aren't they? They're like little Christmas trees, little succulent Christmas trees. It goes over the top around the lip of that little sunken pot. I've got some of the bigger rosettes I took out from the centre here. I just put them around the edges, and hopefully they'll stretch backwards towards the tree trunks and backwards towards the Rose of Sharon. And by the end of the season, that should have almost joined together and be looking quite nice. And then of course you just got to see what happens during the winter. What's going to survive, what's not going to survive. So another little project done. And with what's left over, I've just got one other part of the garden down there which I'll do later. Again, beside this little lamp. It's very, very dry and I don't want to be moving around irrigation. I'll just plop something there. Nothing survives in that spot, so if nothing survives, put a Semper vivum, because that will survive the winter and nothing will kill us. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. As you can see, it didn't take very long. It certainly makes a difference. Instead of having a shovel in my hand to get out the hurry, a lot less work, I can tell you. As I said, I'll be dropping down to a local little village garden centre, getting some nice little lava rock and making it look pretty while it's beeping out the rest of the season. I hope to see you all next week here in Granny's garden. Bye bye now.